if you want to win a game, learn the rules of the game better than your opponent. The one thing that I've learned as a leader is treat people the way you want to be treated, treat them as an equal. Always train your team to dream big. Let them enjoy their work. Hire the right kind of people and let them do what they do best. Don't try to hover around their shoulder. Don't give up on your people. Try to work with them. Show them they are not able to take action. You take the action, and you show them that, okay, hey, they have the potential, but sometimes they don't understand that they have that potential. So you got to sometimes nudge them a little bit and show them that, hey, this is your strength.
Welcome to the Foundry, where leaders are forged daily. And now your host, George Roberts.
Welcome back, entrepreneurs. Today we have Sanjay Hegde, founder of Blue Ring Investors. Welcome, Sanjay.
Thank you, George. I appreciate you inviting me on the show, and I hope I bring some value to your listeners. I'm super excited to be here.
Thank you so much. Why don't you start us off by telling us the story of grit that got you from coming to this country, working at minimum wage, and then moving up the corporate ladder and becoming a multifamily investor?
No, thank you, George. That's a big story, but I'll try to crunch it down, make it easier. Okay. So yeah, I moved. I'm from my education background. My education is in pharmacy. I'm a trained pharmacist by education. But when I came down to the United States on February 21st, 2001, it ended up becoming where my green card did not come on time. The physical green card, because without that, one cannot apply for a social security number, and without social security number, you cannot get a job. And one of the things that I'd learned is that when a man doesn't have a job, he ends up making babies. So my wife gets pregnant, and I'm really looking for a job now, and I do get my green card, with God's grace, and I go job hunting for a pharmacist job. And they come tell me that, sorry, you cannot do this because you don't have a license over here, and for this you have to go back to college. I didn't have the time for that. So there was this company called 𝐒𝐴𝐵 that manufactured lithium batteries for space, defense, and industrial applications. And I started on the floor at $7.25 and 50 cents in shift premium. That was pretty much where my start was. Later on, 9/11 happens, and they were looking for a maintenance helper. I had no experience in maintenance, but watching people fix the machines and everything, I kind of got a grip of it. So I kind of said, I'm just trying to be a helper over here. But it was paying a little bit more. So I took that job. And then 1 year into it, they wanted me to go to second shift and actually take over as a maintenance mechanic, because I had learned how to fix all these machines. And then that was paying me a little bit more. So I took that job. And because there was the soldiers needed the batteries so bad, we were running 24 hours, 7 days a week. So I took that opportunity to work my overtime and work 90 hours a week to make some good money. And that was around, good money was like $52,000 at that time, but which was still better than that 17,000 I did when I first came in, right? So later on, there was a position open for a production supervisor, and then I got into that. And then from there, I went to become a sales rep for Northeastern region. From there, they promoted me as the sales manager for North America. And then they promoted me as the director of sales for Americas and Asia to improve the thing. I had plenty of salespeople working for me, and wonderful team of people working for me, and how should I say, with me, and was managing about $300 million worth of business. And then later on, one of the competitors hired me as the vice president of sales and marketing. So that was my journey. But during this time, I was starting to make some money, and one of the things that I always said was, there's one thing that cannot grow is land, right? There's a limited amount of that. So there is always money in real estate. But I learned the hard way that, yes, there is money, but it all depends on where you put your money. So I put my money in some single family homes, and then I was putting money in storage houses as well as in syndications for multifamily. And I was seeing money coming from syndication, but I was losing money on my single family because there was something breaking up all the time. It was all on me and everything. So either I have to fix it or somebody else is going to fix it. And I didn't have the time to fix it. So somebody else had to fix it and it cost money. So I was losing money over there. And with all that being done, I kind of soon realized that I was not spending enough time with my family because I was always traveling. I was never home. And the aha moment was when I felt the most was my son. He was driving one day and he was 17 at that time and he was in high school. He got into an accident and it was very hard for me staying far off, not being able to reach out to him. With God's grace, nothing happened to him, neither to the person who hit him. But I wanted to be there for him. I never was around when he was growing up, and I have a daughter who's 12 years old now. And I felt like I wasn't able to do it for him, but at least I want to spend more time with her. So I was trying to figure out what is that next business that I really need to do to become financially free. And that is when, I thought about syndication and multifamily. And I looked at other opportunities like flipping businesses and, gas stations, like any other Indian will think about the 7-Elevens, but none of those things came up for me. I just felt that was not the one for me. And then, there was this RE mentor from Dave Lindahl had shown up in Charlotte, and I went there to get an understanding of what multifamily syndication is and how it works. And because I had done passively investing in it, but never actively got involved in it. So I wanted to know more about it. Then I attended their boot camp later on. And that was when I said, this is for me. And but just going to the 3 days boot camp doesn't really make you an expert. So I took up their mentorship program. And after doing that mentorship program, I decided, yes, I'm going to go into this full-fledged and started this company called Blue Ring Investors.
Excellent. And so what's the timeline on that? So single family 2016, and then you go and you get some education, some boot camp training. And then at what point do you start doing multifamily deals?
So 2020 is when I actually started studying and learning more about multifamily. And 2021 is when I started off with the Blue Ring Investors and, syndication for multifamilies.
Awesome. And a pretty big year in 2021. I want to say that you had 3 deals that year.
Yes, we did 3 deals. A total of 158 units is what we did. Our properties in Omaha, Nebraska, Killeen, Texas, as well as in Winston-Salem.
Great. Well, tell us how you picked those markets.
Well, obviously, as I said, what we look for is we focus on a couple of things. We look for emerging markets where we can see some growth coming in. That's number one, where we are seeing new population growth coming in and new companies coming up there to bring in that brings in all these people coming into these new jobs. So that's one part of it. We look for B and C class properties in B and C class areas with some value adds. We do not touch any of the D class properties. We have no intentions of becoming a slumdog millionaire. And obviously, we look for some value adds because we don't want to do a complete flip. We want to make sure that it's a cash flowing business. It's already it's a healthy business that's already going well, but we want to bring it to the next level where we can actually take it to to the market rents and stabilize the property and then sell the property.
So I don't hear a whole lot about Omaha, Nebraska as a multifamily market. Tell us the story behind that.
Absolutely, a great question. So the one thing that I like about Omaha, Nebraska is that it is a really good, hardworking, Midwestern valued population. And it's one of those markets that doesn't have a whole lot of roller coaster up and downs, right? It's a very steady market. It's a very stable market. So we have certain investors who don't want to take too much of risk. They want to be like, hey, I like this particular thing where it's consistent. There is a consistency in there. It's a safe market to bet on. So that's pretty much what was the driving factor.
Yeah, that's outstanding. And that's something that I'm hearing more and more about. People are moving away from these hotter markets, and they want to go to some of the places where there is a whole lot more consistency. Well, if we could go a little deeper on that, could you tell us something that most people wouldn't know about one of your markets?
As I said, at Killeen, for example, a lot of people, when they look at Killeen, they look at this, this is a military base. There's not a whole lot going on over there. But that's not a true statement. There is a lot going on up there. There's new things coming up. There is a lot of investment coming up through cybersecurity that's getting implemented over there. Obviously, with SpaceX coming in over there, where they will be doing a lot of the refurbishing over there. So there is a lot of opportunities that are coming there other than just the military. So that is something that people really don't look at. They just look at it from a surface level and say, it's a very small town, not a lot of people coming in. So that's something that I could tell.
Yeah, and very important to stay on top of those narratives. A lot of times the story behind a city, it does change through time. And a lot of people, if you don't follow that, you can very easily miss some important deals. So
absolutely.
Yeah, a little more on your multifamily business. You're big on capital raising, and I think that you built a pretty huge investor network in a very short period of time. Tell us how you did that, and how could you advise people who may be just setting out on that?
Yeah, so it is a journey, and it takes time, because investment is something that is done where you have to earn people's trust. And how you do that is, the key is that as to like working with the true partners. I think having the right kind of partner is the key. I was very fortunate where I was on one of these podcasts, very similar to yours, and my current partner, Dr. Jeanette, she was actually listening to that podcast. And she picks up the phone and she calls me and says, Sanjay, I just heard your podcast and I want to understand about multifamily. And I was like, okay, I'll tell you about multifamily. And the question was very specific. And she's like, they say that multifamily is a team sport. Tell me how. And I was like, okay, let me explain it to you. And I went over that whole thing. And she was like, wow, that's very interesting, Sanjay, because I did some mentorship programs, and everybody kept telling this, but nobody wanted to work with us. And you've chosen doctors. Is there a specific reason? I said, well, I understand. One of the things that I also did during my tenure was when I was doing in sales and marketing, was one of my friends who's a dentist. She happened to have her own practice, and she was having challenges growing it. And she kind of brought it up to me saying, Sanjay, can you help me out with this one? I said, what kind of marketing have you done? And she was like, I've done this, I've done that. But I said, hey, I don't know a whole lot about dentistry. And she was like, yeah, but you can definitely learn about it. So I did take up some UCLA classes and things like that to get an understanding of it. And I helped her grow her business, and that led to another. But one of the things that I really learned in this particular thing is a lot of these bread and butter dentists or chiropractors, and they have to spend a lot of money to get that education. And, and by the time they get out of college, they have got to a certain age. And now they spend they have to pay their loans. Now they have to get started with their families. With all those things done, they don't get to a point where they can actually retire, because they haven't saved enough to retire early enough. Or if they do retire, they can continue to live the same lifestyle that they have today. So that was kind of the thing that was coming in. And Dr. Jeanette understood where I was coming from when I was talking to her. She could relate to it. And she said, Sanjay, this is amazing. I would love to learn more about it. And we kept talking for months together. And one day I said, hey, Jeanette, it looks like you really are interested in this one. Why don't you become a part of my company? And this way you'll get to really learn, because she was already investing in, duplexes and quadruplexes, but she was not able to get into the multifamily space, and she was trying to get an understanding of how does it work. So I said, the best way to do is you just jump, because you already have some background in real estate. This will definitely help you. And that's pretty much how it came in. And together we kind of started growing, our network with our investors.
Exciting. And then I believe that both you and Dr. Birnbach are advocates of keeping the W-2 as long as you can. I believe that you're still working as a consultant. Is that still the case?
Yes. Yes. The thing is, multifamily is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It is not something that you start making money from day one. Do our investors make money? Absolutely. But when it comes down to us, it takes time. It takes a lot of properties before you can really start saying that, hey, I can go retire myself. I have nothing to worry about. So it's not as easy as it sounds, or like some people make it look like. There's a lot of work that goes into it, and it takes time for you to actually build up on your revenues.
Yeah, fair enough. So for all of you out there ready to do your first job or your first deal, don't quit the day job just yet, right?
I definitely would not recommend them to do that.
Yeah, exactly. So it looks like you sort of downshifted. So you were obviously a very high income earner and probably still are, but being a consultant, obviously you can choose your own schedule, right? You don't have to be there 40, 50, 60 hours a week if you don't want to.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think there's obviously another tip there for people, pro tip for people trying to make the transition, that if you can do that, if you can do something where you can maybe downshift a little bit and keep that income coming in, that's awesome though. Very, very good. Now, leadership is another part of your story that I'd like to get into. Just start by asking you, what's the most important lesson in leadership that you have learned?
The one thing that I've learned as a leader is treat people the way you want to be treated. Treat them as an equal. Always train your team to dream big. Let them enjoy their work. Hire the right kind of people and let them do what they do best. Don't try to hover around their shoulder. Don't give up on your people. Try to work with them. Show them they are not able to take action. You take the action, and you show them that, okay, hey, they have the potential, but sometimes they don't understand that they have that potential. So you got to sometimes nudge them a little bit and show them that, hey, this is your strength. Maybe this is what you need to, do, where you can come in and do something better, and encourage that part of it. Try to always have a positive attitude. Like it's all, how they say it gets very lonely on the top, and it's when it does get lonely on the top, staying positive is very, very difficult. So, always try to stay positive about it. Don't let anything drag you down. And obviously, networking is the key. So always work with the right kind of people. Always keep growing. Work with people who can actually encourage you and, doing the right things with the right kind of people. Don't go for negativity and things like that.
Awesome.
Don't surround yourself.
I want to explore leadership a little bit more in a minute or two, but let's go back to multifamily a little bit. I love to hear the story of acquisitions, because I think that every great deal has a great story behind it. Why don't you pick one of your acquisitions and just tell us a story about how you found the deal and maybe some of the bumps in the road and how you overcame them?
Yeah, so most of the deals that we work, as I said, multifamily is a team sport. Right. So it's not something that you just, one person does one thing. Basically, somebody finds a property, then we put together a deal together, and then we start all raise capitals together and try to make this into a success. So it's a mix of things, right? So most of the properties that we have come across, it has already been bought, who has found a certain property, but now they have certain challenges. The challenges could be is either the earnest money or the risk money that goes into it, or the underwriting part of it. So we all kind of combine ourselves. We all come together, and so that's the beauty about multifamily. It's not like I would not use the word challenge, or the fun is always in going, finding somebody has found the property. Now you're going to go do the due diligence. You're going to, you're rushing through the whole thing. That's where the excitement is, because you want to figure out what is wrong with this property, what is good about this property, and how you're going to actually, are you going to retrade on this particular property, or does this numbers work for us? So those are the key things. And then the fun part starts is, getting the property is one part of it. Most of the time, getting the property is far easier The fun starts after you get the property, because now you're getting in and you got to make all your business plans that you said you're going to do, make it happen. So every property that I've had, I think it's all had its own advantages, and it had its own challenges that came through. Like, for example, we had one where we had a whale investor who kind of pulled off at the last minute. And it was a challenge because we were already like short of $400,000, and for which would have gone into the renovations. But we had just enough money where we could close the deal, and the person just decides to just take his money and leave, which is absolutely fine with us. But that leaves us in a situation where now you are like a week away, and you got to figure out where you're going to get that money from and how you're going to make it all happen and close the deal. Because if not, you're losing your earnest money and all of the rest of the things that goes with it. So that was a challenge in itself. Yes, there was a lot of running around that was done to make that happen. And yeah, a lot of crawling, scratching, and we finally ended up doing it.
Right. And you've got a huge investor database. That's got to be part of it. I mean, you were able to scrape it all together at the last moment, I'm sure.
It is. Sometimes it is that. Sometimes you just beg, borrow.
Determination.
This is determination. At the end of the day, it is like you are in it. You're going to make it happen, because a couple of things. What you don't want to end up doing is going back to your investors and saying, sorry guys, we appreciated you guys showing your faith in us and investing in us, but this deal is not going to go through because of some $400,000.
Wow, that's an amazing story. Maybe you go back to the leadership train again. Why don't you tell our audience some of the books that have helped to forge you as a leader and as an entrepreneur?
Well, it all depends, right? To me, I think Rich Dad Poor Dad is always there, right? Like that's for sure. You got to read that. Everybody has to read that, right? And obviously, I don't know if because for me, I don't know. Let me show you the Supreme Influence.
I've not heard of that one before. Tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, it's basically all about it's like a roadmap. It's more about your spiritual growth and personal growth. So it talks more about that. And I think when you are in a business, that is more important, because people get depressed very quickly, right? There are always things that you will notice that you're going through a tough time. You decide that, you know what, I want to just give up on this. I'm tired. I really don't think I want to do this anymore. And that is the time you need something like this, which kind of helps you, give you the hope that don't give up. That is something that will tell you that I can do this. And that's something about this particular book that I really love. It talks about influencing people, how to talk to people. That's definitely there. And how to make friends and networking is something that it talks about.
Awesome. One I definitely want to check out. So what is the best advice you've received in real estate?
Well, I would not say only in the best advice I've always got is from one of my previous mentor, my boss. His name was Glenn Bowling, and he said, Sanjay, if you want to win a game, learn the rules of the game better than your opponents. And that is something that I have always learned. And some of the things that I have learned from is some of the books, like from Joe Fairless, Best Ever Apartment Syndication book. That's a really good, book that if somebody is going into apartments itself, that's a really good book to focus on. And obviously, I would definitely recommend them to, Grow From Within is another book that I would definitely recommend somebody. That was also something that was one of my guides had actually asked me to read that one. That's also a very good book. It talks about innovation, entrepreneurship. So that is if somebody within your listeners who want to do that, that's a really good book to read as well.
Awesome. Now, why don't we follow it up with the worst advice that you received in real estate, or maybe a mistake or misstep that you'd like to help other people avoid?
I would not use the word mistake, because I don't think there is anything as a mistake. I look at everything as a learning opportunity. So the only thing that I can tell about when it comes down to this is that if somebody tells them that, okay, they can close a deal in 60 days, and right after they start off, and they're going to make a ton of money in acquisition fee and all of the others, don't just take that word for it, because that's not as easy as they think.
Awesome. So one last question. Do you have any advice for your younger self?
The advice to my younger self would be why did you not get into multifamily sooner?
All right. Good one to end on. What's the best way that we can reach you?
Yeah, the best way to reach us, you can reach us through our website, www.bluringinvestors.com. We are also have our presence on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. So you can reach us over there. If you go to our website, bluringinvestors.com, you will also be able to look at a tab that says publications. And that would be a great way to actually read some of the things that we put in, the lead magnets that we have. It will give them a lot of information about investments, especially investments in multifamily. And we are starting off with a new podcast, not a podcast, a web series where Dr. Jeanette and I will be talking more about investments, and also bringing in some of the other financial advisors coming in and kind of talk about different investment opportunities other than just multifamily.
Great. Thank you so much.
No, always a pleasure. Thank you, George. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
All right. Thank you.
And I hope I brought some value to your listeners.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.